Today marks the 2-year anniversary since I first arrived on my land here in Maine. Let's have a look back on what I got accomplished this last year. My first project to start year 2 was finishing out the kitchen and shower in my home. Step 1 was building the shower pan, which involved erecting some wood walls, getting a liner put in, mortaring everything and leveling that out, letting it dry. And then lots and lots of cutting and mounting tile, grouting that tile, caulking it, and then sealing it. After the pan was done, the walls were next, so I had to cut and build some framing, mount that. And I needed a place to put my water jug, so I mounted a cross beam holder for that. Then cut and fasten the walls to the framing. And then finally installing the trim, puttying up the screw holes, coating the entire shower with poly, and then putting a final caulking to waterproof it. With the shower done, finishing the kitchen was relatively straightforward. First step was the kitchen sink. I had to cut and fit a bottom for the sink, and then I wanted a shelf to be able to put another water jug on. And once that was finished, all that was left to just mount the sink. The kitchen counter was a little bit more involved. I had to cut sand and mount the bottom piece, and then do the same with the legs. And then once again for each of the 3 shelves, they had to be cut, sand, and mounted. With all the shelving in, it was just left to finish it with polyurethane. Wanting to make sure that I had enough wood for the winter, I took a brief detour to resupply my Holzhausen with wood. And then I had had some branches sitting from the hemlocks I cut in year 1, and I finally got a chance to finish processing those. At that point, my new mini excavator arrived, and it was time to get working on upgrading my shed. So the first step was clearing a new space for the old shed. After bringing down a few trees and clearing them up, I was able to move the old shed and get it set up in its new temporary location. Then it was on to building the bow roof shed. The first step was building all 16 bows of the shed, which was quite a long process. It took many days, and I got a lot faster at it towards the end. It was kind of one of those things where I got really good at it just about the time that it was done. To get those bows mounted, I had to get the foundation for the new shed done. That involved some stump removal in the location where the old shed was. It took me a while to work with the mini excavator to get the ground leveled. With the ground leveled, I needed a floor for my shed, so I got some road pack delivered and got that leveled out and packed down. With the groundwork done, it was time to put the foundation in. The foundation I chose was quite simple. I cut and drove some pressure treated stakes in, and then mounted some vertical 2x6s for my sills. After that, I took a break from the shed to get some other time-sensitive projects done. The first one was building a parking spot for the mini excavator, which is pretty simple now that I'd gotten decent at leveling ground, so I just leveled a piece and put down some more road pack, and then I had a parking spot. Since I hadn't taken care of the water drainage issues from year 1, I really wanted to get that done too before the winter came. So I decided to embark on a trenching project with my new mini excavator. That involved clearing some trees and stumps from the area where the trench was going to go. Then my friend was kind enough to dig the first third of the trench for me and kind of show me how it was done since I'd never done it before. Once I had seen him do the work, I had a pretty good idea of how to get the rest done myself, so in a few more days I was able to knock out the rest of the trench. It wasn't as good as his work, but I was pretty sure it was going to be good enough to solve my problem. At this point, winter was fast approaching, and I really wanted to get that bow roof shut up before the first snow flew. So I took the time to get some final cuts on the bows. And then I took my first 2 bows, attached them to the ridge, and with some struggle, I got that lifted up in the air and 2 more bows attached, and I was off and on my way to getting the shed erected. This was a real study in improving efficiency as I erected the remaining bows. I just kept getting faster and faster as I put the rest of the 16 up. Once the bows were up and the shed was basically stabilized, I needed to install some horizontal and diagonal bracing to make it really nice and sturdy to handle any snow load or wind load. With all of the bracing up, the last step in the framing was to cut and erect the ends of the shed. Before I could start mounting the cover, I had to rip many thin strips called battens to be able to attach the cover to the shed. With the snow just days away, I was racing to get the cover up. So I got the end coverings cut and installed, and then I did the roof covering in 2 steps. The first step was mounting it and getting it set up so that I could roll it down. And then one side at a time, I rolled it out and fastened the sections of the roof with the battens that I had cut. At that point, the shed was basically done, and I had a little bit of time left before the snow, so I decided to install a front door. Now that the shed was up, I had one more project I wanted to get done before the really heavy snow set in. And that was building a center brace for my Yome so it could handle more snow load. That involved designing and then cutting and mounting a center disc that the support pole would be braced with, and then finally cutting and mounting a center pole. With the critical winter work done, I decided to take a little break, and I traveled for a month. When I got back, I hoped I would be able to dig myself out in about a day or 2 and get on with my life. But it turned out to be way harder than that. It was so hard, in fact, that it was the first time I've wanted to quit since I've been out here. To top it off, my stove was broken and flooded the place with smoke the first time I tried to start it. But I just took it one step at a time, and with the help of the mini excavator, I was able to get the driveway cleared. And I got everything cleared around the shed. I dug myself out around the house and got the wood piles dug out. Ordered a part for the broken stove and repaired that and got it working again. Well, I was able to get everything accomplished in year 2 that I'd hoped. It didn't turn out quite the way I'd expected. After the first year, I really believed I'd handled all the major stressors and year 2 is going to be more laid back. But that's not how it played out. Year 2 is also pretty stressful in its own way. Now, call me naive, but I actually believe I now have all the major stresses handled, and I think year 3 is going to be a little bit more laid back. We'll see.